Welcome to all inspiring chefs, cooks, and everything in between alike. This is Griever, your guys' host as always, bringing you guys episode 11 of Shokugeki no Souma, the fourth plate. Now, I don't know where the last episode is going to go, honestly. Probably like more of an epilogue, a wrap-up episode, I'm sure. Because there's still stuff to cover, but this went a little faster than I thought it would. But that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I like the focus here. There was some addition, as far as I remember. And if we get a season 5, if we get the 5th plate or whatever, which I really, honestly, probably won't review because, god damn it, I might watch it because so far they actually fixed something here. There are subtle references throughout this season and really heavy in this particular episode that enhance the story, that fix a bit of a plot issue later on in the manga for the next arc. The next arc, which was really bad. It was just bad. That's probably the reason I won't be reviewing it. I might watch it though because if they can handle it correctly, if they know how bad it was, and if they can fix a lot of they would almost have to give it the filler treatment, but like not the filler treatment. Yeah, basically the filler treatment. Basically, take the concept of the final arc of Shokugeki no Soma the manga and don't make it an OVA like a lot of animes do these days. You guys know my opinion about that. When you watch a lot of animes back in the day, they did not follow a lot of the time. They deviated. Look at Full Metal Alchemist versus Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Now, to be fair, I like Brotherhood better, but Full Metal Alchemist was a good adaptation with a different twist, with quite a few differences that some people liked, some people didn't like, some people even like more than what the original showcased. They would need to apply that to the next season for this to go down. But what am I talking about? I'm talking about Azami. Azami is a character. Because the one good thing, one of the very few good things that came out of the last arc was Azami as a full-rounded character, as a tragic character. Sort of a bit of a Greek tragedy sort of thing going on with him. And unlike, as far as I'm aware, I don't remember this, but unlike the manga, and I didn't get a chance to reread it, so I could be wrong, even if they do acknowledge, even if he mentions him, which I think he does in reference to like breaking him and such, I don't believe it was as heavily implied, and I don't believe we get that little flashback. Yeah, we do get the flashback, don't we? Yeah, that's in this arc. See, that's the thing. I should have reread the manga before I said this, but I really feel that this was more heavily implied, a lot more in the episode than it was in the manga, if it was implied the same way. I don't believe it was. I think it was more heavy here that he is actually concerned about Arena. He's very concerned about Arena. He's very concerned about chefs in general because he believes that Joshiro, his idol, got broken by an apparently I've been saying that name wrong. I forget what the actual pronunciation is, Joshiro or whatever. But anyway, Joshiro, of course, Soma's father, went into the wasteland and never returned pretty much. And he basically quit cooking. He got too far and there was too many expectations. For a long time, he had quit cooking. This ruined Azami at a young age to the point that he realized that there was a problem in the world, and I'm going to acknowledge that is the case because we see that in the next arc as well. But I like that this is more heavily focused here in this episode, that Azami is actually just afraid. He saw what happened. He doesn't want it to happen to Arena, so he decided that he was going to make true gourmet. People had to follow the textbook definition of cooking. That way, nobody will be pushed to get any better, especially someone of the God tongue. And this is very dangerous because this is acknowledged. Because here in the episode, what do we see? We see the beginning where Arena needs to create her specialty, where we left off in the last episode. The whole idea of a specialty, right? And Susanamon actually is standing there and acknowledges all this and says, well, her god tongue allows her to make perfectly pro-level dishes, 100% dishes from the get-go. So how is she supposed to make a specialty? In a way, all of her dishes are her specialty, and none of them are, because they're all perfect. The god tongue makes a perfectly delicious meal. If it tastes perfect to the god tongue, then it is perfect. It's an undisputed fact. This is what Azami fears, and I get that, because Susanamon does not acknowledge those specialties, which is good, because look at what happened to Tsukasa. Tsukasa makes dishes that sometimes he doesn't believe are 100, but he's got a bunch of people around him saying, as expected, no matter how little he tries, no matter how hard he tries. We get a lot of overlapping character arcs with this whole idea of true gourmet, and the people that the expectation of high-level chefs to get better, or not even try at all. In Tsukasa's case, it was a case of no matter how much he tried, and no matter how little he tried, everyone went 10 out of 10. Even if he, as an in-between besides those 2 points, let's say he tried really hard and failed as far as he's concerned, not necessarily failed, but that's not his best work, nobody was going to notice. And that bothered him. That was his version of this. Azami's, of course, is the whole idea of protecting these chefs from this. Is that shouldn't be the case. Because if they lose their passion, if they get angry while serving customers, if they're bothered by the acknowledgments of other people, then they are going to step further away from cooking, and they're going to come to resent cooking. That's an issue. So Azami decided he was going to save the cooking world by getting rid of that possibility altogether. Did he go about it the wrong way? Yes, of course he did. But was his heart in the right place? Yeah, I would acknowledge so, because Susanamon, everyone right now is basically telling Arena, you already make 10 out of 10 dishes. Now make 11 out of 10. That is a high level of expectation. It really is. And of course, without the freedom, it's supposed to be a feel-good message here in this episode, and it is, don't get me wrong. The kitchen needs experimentation. Like everything else, it's a science. And science, to progress, needs to constantly be messed with, needs to be fiddled with. It needs to be flipped on its head. That's what makes cooking special. That's what makes cooking a science. The issue with that is that it can break some people when they're expected to do more and more and more. I'm sure there's many geniuses, people touted as geniuses in the world, that feel that pressure every day, and sometimes they just give up or whatever. They go through anxiety or depression or what have you. And Azami fears this for his daughter more than anything. He did this whole, as far as I'm concerned, he did this whole outlandish thing to save his daughter. In a sense, because he sees what happened to his mentor, to his idol, and he certainly doesn't want it happening to his daughter, because what's the next thing? Sure, she might make this dish, and sure, this dish might actually surpass the God Tongue's 10 out of 10 and bolster it to an 11. But where's the next step? Now her standard is 11. Now she's expected to make, what's the next step? 12? 13? 20? 50? How many points is she going to have to continuously go? Remember, it's already 100%. It's already a perfect dish. And she's going to be constantly expected to rise higher and higher and higher. That's a real fear, and I feel like Azami is with that. You know, like, it's not, and he's starting to freak out a little bit here, because as I said, Susanamon already acknowledged all this, right? He said every dish is her specialty, but none of them are. She needs to be able to surpass the perfect deliciousness of the God Tongue. That's a really tall order. And honestly, in the end of the day, this is supposed to be feel good. But Azami is not really wrong that this is likely what's going to happen eventually. Now, the idea is that friendship and love and courage and the people around them going to distinct goals, that not everyone will be broken by the wasteland. That if they don't wander off on their own like Joshiro sort of did, if they all work together, the Polar Star Dorm, friendship, and they stick together to accomplish their goals, and it's okay to lose and stuff, but it's okay to win as well. You celebrate when you win, you cry when you lose, but you keep going forward together. Okay, maybe that's how you weather the storm. You go through it together, sort of idea. And Joshiro didn't do that, and that was his mistake. You could look at it that way, but as I said, there's a lot of hidden meanings in this episode. There's a lot of deep meanings in this episode in that way, because Arena does serve her specialty, and it's enhanced. Tsukasa and Rindo try it. They acknowledge it after trying, of course, the appetizer of Souma. Then they eat this beautiful, and of course, Arena's copying almost everything that. Almost down to the letter, copies everything that Souma does. Basically, but I will transform one more thing to transform my dish till it's complete. Copies the idea of the very first episode. That's a really nice callback that she uses the same technique with the the cubes of gold sort of idea flowing out that Souma did in his first taste test or battle with Arena. She does a nice callback to that. That's really impressive. But Azami keeps saying, like, it just in the same way it broke him, the passion and freedom of cooking, by following this method, it will break you, just like it broke him. And he keeps on this line that he's just like, no, this can't be the case. And as I've already gone over, maybe a little too long, I can respect that. You might not agree with his methods, but his reasoning is rather sound. Because all he has seen is the best chef, his idol, lose his way because of this path. And he realizes this path needs to have a roadblock. This path is dangerous even for the greatest of chefs. It's too dangerous, and he can't let it happen anymore. So he refused to let it. So they don't delve into huge detail super in this episode about it, but I feel like it's not as acknowledged in the manga. I really do need to reread Shokugeki no Souma, but because it was a great series up until the last arc. So, and this was a great arc. I really enjoyed this arc. So, yeah, I think they added a few more. Definitely the reaction shots showing Joshiro constantly looking on and being like, yeah, like he's talking about me. So, it's very interesting. We get, in the end, he can't stop it though. Everybody tastes it and everybody thinks this beats it. This is going to win. But Azami can't accept that, and he starts to freak out. Hisako comes in. She gets a nice character development, finally admitting to herself and right in front of everyone that I am not just a servant. I am Arena's friend. And she gives a nice little speech, and Arena appreciates that. Hisako's embarrassed by it, but it happens. And then Azami, the gifting, which of course, strips everyone else naked, the gifting starts, the gifting pulse. So, and he acknowledges this as, even if my mind refuses to accept it, does my body it can't hold it back? My body refuses to, no matter how much I believe I can't accept this dish, my body acknowledges it as delicious and I can't stop it, and then it has nowhere to go. It keeps bursting, and then boom, it bursts and Azami is stripped down as well. That's basically the end of the episode here, but as I said, the key thing to take away is the amount of passion that Arena put into her specialty, how she managed to come up with this by basically throwing away her perfect ideal. At the end of the day, Arena was cooking true gourmet. Arena, up to this point, was only cooking in the ideals of her father, was only cooking the way that Central cooks. She had to throw away that textbook. She needed to cook outside the box like Souma, and that's what she did here. And it's a really nice character development. She's one of the most developed characters in the series. The only other points, I guess, to bring up would be Souma, after Azami keeps freaking out about, it'll break him, he'll be lost, just like he was. It'll break all chefs. The only salvation is the garden I've created for them. Someone basically says, could you stop, talking about that? Listen, I only found out what happened to my dad recently and everything, but I can tell you this much, so maybe I'm at a place. But I know, and we see a shot of him remembering his mom and dad and him as a small kid. And it says, I know my dad was happy after he met my mom. I'm sure of that, at the very least. And he, of course, by the time Souma was old enough to remember, he was cooking again. So the idea that maybe he was too young and he didn't rely on others properly, this could all be down to Joshiro's fault. It had nothing to do with the path. in the wasteland. It had nothing to do with the idea that this is the wrong path for chefs to take. It just could simply be they need to be prepared for it. They can't walk it alone. This is not a journey that one can take alone. You need friendship. You need love. You need companions around you and comrades that you can trust and rely on in this way. This is not a one-man operation, right? So I acknowledge that. Man, there's a lot in this episode. There really is. But we got to end it at some point because we still got one more episode to go, and I could probably talk a little further about this. It's really nice here at the end because Souma cheekily says, "Hey, you've been stealing everything else from me. You're the boss. You're the one who won it all, so you got to say it. Say it. And Aranda's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? He's like, come on, you got to say it. We have all the reaction. The theme's playing. Everything's nice. And she basically said, glad you enjoyed it, sort of idea. Glad you liked it. She takes out her, ponytail, her hairband and stuff. We get this nice shot here at the end. And gets that color sketch feel. And this kind of feels like the finale. This is definitely the finale. It would be a little abrupt were this the last episode, and I kind of feel like we're going to do an epilogue thing. Maybe we're going to do a bunch of time skip. Maybe they'll run through what happens in the last arc, realizing that nobody's really excited for the final arc to be animated because it was so bad. But I don't know. Maybe they'll just extend. Maybe we'll get some filler. Maybe we'll get more about Azami, as I said, because I feel like this was expanded upon here in this episode versus the manga at this junction. So perhaps that's what we're going to get next episode is maybe some more flashback scenes with Azami, because we got a short one here with Azami and Joshiro and their time back when they were teenagers and students. Maybe we'll get a little expansion on that. Maybe we'll get a time skip. Maybe they'll do a filler ending and just say, no, the fifth arc didn't happen. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. Did you enjoy this series? So I really enjoyed Shokugeki no Souma up to this point as a manga. I love it as an anime. I hope you guys do too. So like, comment, subscribe. It's always really much appreciated. This has been Griever with your episode review for episode 11. Last episode review coming shortly. Not going to promise when because, of course, last time I did that, things happened. So look forward to it, though. It will be out eventually, and that'll be it for me for anime episode reviews, I think, for a while. I think I got a couple more Wrath of the Gods, Seven Deadly Sins reviews coming out, and that'll be pretty much it for me. Maybe until the next season starts or whatever. So that being said, I've really enjoyed doing this, so I, of course, always like reviewing and talking about different things and trying out different formats and reviewing different stuff and media. So that being said, I've rambled on long enough. Drink responsibly as always, as I am, drinking tea. So we'll see you back here next time, guys. Peace out.